Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion, here, joined today by a very special guest. It is none other than the author of the book, Maroon Mentality, Robert Burgin. How are you today, Bergs?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Glad to see you got the book there.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a bit of a worry if I didn't have the book, but I've got it here. What I've done with the book, and I know a couple other people have, I was talking to Christian Freed a couple of weeks ago about it. The really good thing with this book is that each player, they're numbered by chapters. So what I've done is I've sort of gone through sort of my favorite players and stuff, and I'd read about them first, and then you can go back, which is a really smart way to sort of, I guess, chapter the book so that people can go and read about who they want first and then come back and do stuff like that. I guess a quick question off the bat was that the mentality behind doing that, to allow people to go pick and choose and then come back and read the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits. The main one though was so that it ordered them in the order of appearance for Queensland, and that way it made more sense if you read the earlier guys, and it kind of showed the timeline of what was happening in Queensland at different times too. So if you read the first couple together, you can see some of the social issues going on, and as the book progresses, that becomes more and more evident, and then you can say, oh, such and such appeared here, and he actually went to the same school that someone went to right back at the start. So you start to join all the dots together.
Yeah, well, before we really start to delve into the book, I guess, I have one big question for you. Who's your favourite Origin player of all time?
Oh, favourite Origin player? I'm probably going to have to say Gene Miles. And it was really cool because I got to work with him a fair bit on the book. He was really helpful with his role with former Origin greats. But he was my first sort of hero in rugby league. I saw him play a game for Wynnum Manly on TV at my grandparents' place where he scored 3 tries, kicked some goals from the sideline, and I was kind of wrapped since then. I think in the later years, I really liked Matty Bowen, and I was there at the game with a whole bunch of my friends. We had a big crew of us when he took that intercept and ran the length of the field. So probably in terms of personal moments that really stick in my mind, that was just amazing atmosphere.
Was that your favourite Origin moment, or is there something that trumps even that?
Oh, mate, I can remember listening to Mark Coyne's try on a transistor hiding in my covers because I was too young to be staying up at night, and my parents wouldn't let me stay up and watch the game. So I was, underneath the sheets, and I'd snuck a radio into my room and was listening to that try. So I didn't get to see it live like everyone else, but it also made it like almost more personal because I'm there, kind of taking it all in, and it's just you and your imagination. And actually, that's something that comes through in the book with a lot of the early players, because a lot of them that grew up in the countryside, they didn't have, match of the day or anything like that. So they just listened to ABC radio, and they imagined a lot of what their best players and, their favourite players and best games were all about. So I think there's something to be said for that in a way.
Yeah, well, on that topic, in your author preface, the first line is that this is not a book about rugby league. It's a book about fruit pickers, etc. And that's one reason why I really believe that this is not just a book for Queenslanders. It's a book for rugby league fans, because you don't just learn about what they did in Origin. You learn about the people. You learn about the upbringing. Personally, because I'm a Darren Lockyer fan, he was probably my favorite chapter, reading about the truck stop, like where he grew up. I never knew that about him. So that's awesome. Was it important to you to not just tell the origin stories of these players, but actually delve into, their life growing up, and I guess sort of showing that they're people too in a funny enough way?
Yeah, that's basically the whole premise of the book, is that I know, being the 40-year anniversary and people being as parochial as they are about Queenslanders, that there'd be lots of books talking about state of origin. But to me, I think if we just talk about the games that they played and the number of tries they scored and who played well in this match, it's kind of dehumanizing, because the real story is about what adversity they overcame, how come they were able to be selected for this elite group of players above everyone else in Queensland. And, I know New South Wales is rugby league mad, but in Queensland, when you're a boy, playing state of origin is what everyone dreams of. And for these guys to get to the top, they've had to be, mentally more resilient and tougher than other people. And I think all of us that didn't get to that level, we want to know like what happened to them to make them be able to compete at that level, and what separated them from us, so normal human beings in a way.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can see in the background there a Brazil Rugby League jersey, I believe. At the start of the book, you talk about how Buy Maroon mentality will sort of go towards helping the Brazil women's team get to that World Cup next year in 2021. First, tell us a little bit about that and sort of what that money goes towards, and then just give us a little bit of an insight on your involvement with the Brazil Rugby League and the Latin Heat, who I believe you're the head coach of.
Yeah, I'm not the head coach, but I'm sort of the manager and director,
Right.
like founder of it. But also, for people that are unaware, we started trying to encourage rugby league in the Latin American community, both over there in South and Central America and overseas in Australia and USA and everywhere else. There's a large Latino base, and that was 2013. So we've been at it. This is our 8th year now. And really, when we started out, we thought Argentina would become the most powerful country because they're so good at rugby union. And it soon emerged that Chile was the best in the men, and El Salvador really strong too. So that was a bit of a surprise. And then obviously with Brazil, we maybe thought one of the teams might make it to a World Cup in 2025. That was our goal to start with. But Brazil in the women, they've come on leaps and bounds. And Hugo that runs the show over there is, genius. So he's got us there for 2021. And I'll be along as the manager. And as I say, yeah, portion of the sales from the book will go towards Brazil Rugby League because, once all the costs of the book are covered, then that frees me up to do a lot of other things. So, I'm pleased to give back to the game in some form, and talking to a few other organisations like Men of League and some local junior clubs about ways, might be able to tie in and help them out as well, because that's kind of my background.
That's amazing, man. Well, I guess back to the book itself, Maroon Mentality. How did it all start for you? Was this sort of your brainchild? When did you get on board to writing the book? And I guess how long has the process been?
Yeah. Well, I guess the very first sort of seed of it was I used to work for the Brisbane Broncos in like 2000, 2001, and I was helping run their social media accounts, sort of more website, because social media it was a bit before that. But when I was there, I knew that Shane Webke was one of my favourite players and one of the players I was closest to at the club, and I knew he had the traumatic experience with losing his father at a young age. And then I was actually there the day that the staff had to come down and tell Scott Prince in the middle of training that his father had been killed in the car accident, and that experience of seeing the grief. And at that stage, Scott Prince hadn't scaled the mountain. He had 2 really badly broken legs in a row. He hadn't become a State of Origin player at that point in time. So I started at that stage to think, geez, these guys have been through some really powerful experiences that have forged their resolve. So right back then was when the first idea came for it. But then as, I worked with QRL for 5 years, 4 years in my first stint and 1 year just recently. And getting to know the players well, I could see through that players like, say, Neville Costigan, who, he grew up in PNG, left his mother behind over there. He's got a brother with Down syndrome. I knew all about his story, and I thought, these are kind of the things that not everyone sees. You think, oh, this guy's good at smashing people on the footy field, but there's so much mentally that's gone on inside of them as well. I guess that's the best way I can wrap it up.
Awesome, man. Was there a favorite memory or favorite moment from the writing process, or just the process in general, that you can think of?
Yeah. Favorite was probably speaking to John Rebo, because we both involved with the same junior club at West Mitchie, obviously Freddie and Righty and those guys. And I'd seen John around the club occasionally, never spoken to him a great deal. And then, obviously he's very successful with what he's been able to achieve in his life, but he gave me a lot of time. It was one of the longest interviews I did, and he told me about his father having post-traumatic stress disorder after the war and dying at a young age. And this was a really different side to him that I saw, and I started to realise, why he became so good at commerce at a young age and why he had this resolve that he wouldn't really back down. So that's probably the favourite interview that I did, but most memorable was while I was interviewing another player, I found out that one of my ancestors in the 1860s had actually written first-hand accounts of Indigenous massacres,
All
and
right.
and obviously that's not a great thing, but for
Yeah.
me it was a revelation because I stumbled on this ancestor of mine purely through researching the book, and I didn't really know about it before. So that was a really powerful, I guess, emotive part of the book that stuck with me from the process.
Mate, that's awesome. What's next for you in terms of writing?
I've actually been asked by the University of Queensland to put together a book on sustainable mining, which is very different to this. But
Yeah.
the main thing for me is Brazil Rugby League, really. So getting together sponsors, organising the players so they're a cohesive unit. Brazil's a huge country geographically, and it's probably even harder to bring together the players over there than it is in a large country like Australia. So um, really the next year that's my number one aim is to make them do as well as possible. But past that, I've got probably two or three other book ideas I want to work on. Something about the history of Latin American rugby league and telling all the funny stories we've encountered along the way would be, that'd be up near the top of the list. And I think writing about the World Cup would be the kind of the icing on the cake for that.
Yeah. Are you looking to, in the future, eventually, become sort of a well-ingrained rugby league author, I guess, of the likes of an Alan Whitaker, for example?
Yeah, I think I don't want to pigeonhole myself just to do rugby league. I've written some
Yeah.
other stuff that's fiction or young adult and travel and that type of thing. So I would like to be just an author full time. But yeah, rugby league's obviously my biggest passion, so that's always going to play a big part in whatever I do.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today,
Yep.
Bergs. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you, and I'm sure everyone watching at home appreciates it too. Guys, if you want to buy Maroon Mentality, I've got the link down in the description on YouTube. But if you're watching the clip on Facebook or on Instagram, you can see just below where you can go to find Maroon Mentality on Facebook and Instagram. And when you get there, you'll be able to see how you can purchase the book. Bergs, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really keen to look to what you do in the future to for what's next for you. So thanks, man.
Cheers, mate. All the best.